There is no cope. The right-wing cope for what's happening in Britain's streets is to go on about Keir Starmer. The left-wing cope for what's happening on Britain's streets is to blame the far right. The reality is much, much worse. This has nothing to do with the current government, and a few racist idiots kicking off are the least of our worries. Yes, the violent criminals should be prosecuted and given harsh sentences. And yes, Starmer and senior police officers have not handled this well. But the fundamentals of this situation are inescapable. Britain has a stagnant economy that relies on cheap foreign labour and a population that is utterly fed up of mass immigration. Our economy isn't actually reliant on cheap foreign labour, but if we stop its influx, our politicians would have to admit the truth. Our economy is not actually growing. That is why our GDP is growing, albeit barely, but our GDP per capita is shocking for a developed country. We have an open border. No, that's not an exaggeration. When I came to Britain in 1996, net legal immigration was around 55,000 a year. That's the number of people who come here illegally every year today. We have a Muslim population which, like any large group, is made up of all sorts of people. Most Muslims in Britain are decent and law-abiding. But as a population, the Muslim community has not integrated. More British Muslims joined ISIS and al-Nusra than the British Army, according to The Guardian and the New York Times. Google it. The Equalities Act introduced protected characteristics, which effectively made members of certain racial, ethnic and religious groups entitled to special treatment. Partly as a result of this, and partly due to the broader introduction of the idea of diversity and inclusion, the police, social workers and all manner of government officials turned a blind eye to crimes committed by particular racial and ethnic groups. A good example would be so-called grooming gangs, which are groups comprised predominantly of Pakistani and Bangladeshi men who targeted white and Sikh girls for gang rape. According to estimates, there were several 100,000 victims, and these crimes have gone on for over 40 years and continue to happen today. The white British population is in demographic decline. They're not having enough children, while immigrants and ethnic minorities have lots of kids. Combined with mass immigration of 600,000 to 700,000 people a year, most British cities now look unrecognisable. White Britons are already a minority in London and other major cities, and will become a minority in the country itself within our lifetimes. It's important to understand that Britain isn't like America. Until very, very recently, in 2001, white British people made up nearly 90% of the population. Britain is not and has never been a nation of immigrants, but it will be soon. Despite the fact that the British people voted against this at every opportunity. They voted against it in 2010, 2015, 2016 with Brexit, 2017 and 2019 when the people they elected promised to stop mass immigration and put an end to illegal immigration. At the last election, they gave up on voting for the Conservatives and either voted for Nigel Farage's anti-immigration Reform Party or didn't vote at all, hence the lowest turnout for a century. This is one of the reasons you see increasing levels of censorship and thought policing in the UK. As people begin to express dissent against what is happening, maintaining this state of affairs requires more and more suppression. That's why they're going after Elon Musk. He has created a platform where we can see that the emperor is naked with our own eyes. The riots you see on the streets of Britain have many underlying causes. Many of the people who are burning things down and looting shops are just violent thugs looking for a cheap thrill. The authorities will throw the book at them, as they should. But what they won't do is address the cause of the tensions which are bubbling away under the surface. They will give the can another big kick down the road. I hope this particular flare-up of violence can be calmed, but you're kidding yourself if you think that that will be the end of it. One final thing that's worth saying is that there were many brave people who warned us this would happen. They were all demonized and ignored.